Nebraska fans, let's sit down and have a truthful and honest conversation. What is going on with our D-line recruiting? Now, I want to preface by saying this. I've been very optimistic about Nebraska's 2026 recruiting class. I believe it's going to be top 20, maybe even top 15 in America. I believe they're going to land multiple high-quality four-star prospects. So I'm not worried about the cycle in general for the Big Red. But over the past couple of days, I've become increasingly concerned about one positional group alone, and that's the defensive line. Not only with the prospects they're going after, or should I say the lack thereof, but also with our brand new positional coach. So in today's video, I'm going to go over all of these red flags, what's going on behind the scenes, is our defensive line recruiting getting worse, and so much more. This is a jam-packed update. You're going to want to stick around for the entire video. But before we get into all of it, hit that like button if you're fired up. And also really quick, if you're a diehard Nebraska fan and you're unsubscribed, what are you waiting for? For daily Husker football content, it would make my day. Join the family of over 10,000 strong. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, let's get into it. This is a big time video. Let's talk about one positional group for Nebraska. This is the defensive line recruiting for the Huskers because I'm starting to get concerned. I really, truly am. Now, I want to give you some context to get things going. It's been very apparent, very well known that Nebraska, they're only going to take about 17 to 20 guys in this 2026 class. It's going to be very small compared to some of the classes we've had in the past. But with that being said, they're still planning on landing 3 to 4 defensive linemen because it's a very important D-line class. With Terry Brown coming in, he wants to bring in his own guys. Obviously, you lost a bunch of players to the transfer portal last year. So the expectation for Nebraska is to land 3 to 4 defensive linemen. And that's not including jacks. That's not including linebackers. 3 to 4 defensive linemen. The problem, and we'll get into this, is Nebraska really only has 2 players that are actually interested in them on the defensive line. We'll get things started with Titan Davis, and we'll talk about some of the red flags as the video progresses, some of my concerns, again, as the video goes on. But the only 2 players that Nebraska's actively kind of has interest in is Titan Davis, and we'll start off with him again, 6'5" edge rusher out of St. Louis, Missouri, top 100 player in his class. I mean, he's absolutely elite. He's absolutely elite. He looks like Chase Young. He plays like Chase Young. But the problem with Titan Davis, he's down at 4 schools. Nebraska, Michigan, Alabama, and I believe Georgia is the last school in the mix there. That's a legit list. And while as of right now, I believe Nebraska is the leader in the clubhouse, they have a great relationship with him. I believe that Nebraska right now is in a good position to land him. A lot can change from now to the end of June when he takes all these visits. A lot can change. We don't know what the NIL factor is going to be. We don't know what the playing time factor is going to be. We don't know how much he values NFL development. And while Terry Brown obviously was with the Chiefs and has that NFL background, it's pretty hard to pass up a team like Bama or Georgia that constantly churns out first-round NFL defensive linemen, right? So while I do like where we stand with Titan Davis, and Nebraska's made it very clear that's probably the number 1 edge rusher they're going after, a lot can change. And I can never pencil down guys of his quality because you never know, right? He might value winning. And Nebraska, while they won last year and they're expecting to win this year, compared to teams like Michigan, who's coming off a natty 2 years ago, Georgia coming off a natty 3 years ago, Alabama coming off a natty, 5 years ago, it's hard to compete. It's hard to compete. So Titan Davis is the one player they're going after. The second to last player they're going after is Valdin Sone, who, once again, is a very high-quality player. Like, I'm not worried about the quality of player they're going after. Like, they have a chance to land Valdin Sone. I would also say that right now Nebraska is the leader in the clubhouse to land him. Again, Valdin Sone is a guy who is not from America. He's still learning how to play football, but I mean, just a generational freak athlete, nose tackle. He's a big relationship guy. Obviously, Terry Bratton recently visited his entire family in Sweden. We visited multiple times in Virginia. He's visited Lincoln a couple times. So Nebraska's expecting him to get him on a visit on June 6th. That isn't official yet, but it's pretty much down to Nebraska, Oklahoma, Florida. And while right now I say we're probably the favorite to land him too, again, a lot can change here. Oklahoma's really going after him. Florida's going after him. So with these high-quality prospects, again, it's just really hard to reel them in. Nebraska hasn't had much success getting these very high 4 stars in the past couple of years. So the problem isn't necessarily the quality prospect they're going after. It's the lack thereof. Because Titan Davis and Valdin Sone are the only 2 prospects on the defensive line who have legit interest in Nebraska. Now, let me remind you that the Huskers, they want to land 3 to 4 in this entire class. Now, they tried to get Luke Waffle very early on. They tried to get him on a visit. He wasn't interested in Nebraska, right? That's fine, okay? They tried to get Mikhail Blade. He visited in February. It looks like Notre Dame's going to be the team to beat there. That's going to be pretty hard to land him. We'll see if Mikhail Blade ends up coming on another visit again. So I'm not ruling him out, but it just doesn't look great for us there. And then, they just offered J.J. Finch. That kind of tells you how desperate they are. Usually you don't offer prospects this late in the process, but they offered him a couple days ago. He already is going on visits to Bama, LSU, Tennessee, Purdue. So it's going to be hard to land him either. So the reason why I'm massively concerned right now is just simply because of the fact that Nebraska, they aren't going after anybody. They only really have 2 prospects that they're actively pursuing. And those players are very, very risky. There's a reality where you don't land Titan Davis. There's a reality where you don't land Valdin Sone. And then where do you go? Who are you going to land on the defensive line? We don't know. Like, if you look at Nebraska's offered list here on the D-line, just look through it, right? Like, everybody's already committed or they're just not interested in Nebraska. So what are the red flags here? Okay. And Terry Bryant, obviously, the big concern when we hired him was how was he going to, get into recruiting? Because he's always been an NFL guy. That's fine. We know his development's probably pretty good. But it's hard to learn college recruiting, especially when you get, you jump off the deep end right away. So I'm not concerned about Terry Bryant's recruiting long-term. Like, I think he'll be fine, the 27 class, 28 class, but it's this 26 class that he's really struggling at. He's struggling to build his relationships in, short time. So Terry Bryant, while I'm not concerned long-term, I'm definitely concerned about this class because he just hasn't had a lot of time to build that relationship with these players. And Terrence Knight, honestly, while he did a good job early on in his career with Nebraska, kind of dropped the ball in this 26 recruiting class and really didn't give us much to work with. So I will say this. I think Terry Bryant, honestly, is working in silence a little bit here. He's trying to flip guys behind the scenes. This is something that Nebraska did last year. Like, Juju Marks was a great example. We had no idea Juju Marks was going to commit to Nebraska, and they just kind of flipped last second and committed to us. I feel like that's kind of what's going to happen here, where there might be a guy that Terry Bryant's been texting up who's a high 3-star prospect who ends up flipping to Nebraska that we just never heard of because he's working behind the scenes. So while I'm not freaking out, it's just you got to have a bigger board than 2 players. And I just truly believe if you don't land Valdin Sone, if you don't land Titan Davis, where are you going here? Because you gotta land at least 2. We know how important the defensive line is. You gotta land D-line high school players. You can't just go transfer portal only. In the Big Ten, the D-line is probably the most important positional group besides quarterback. Because the D-line is the only positional group that can really take over ball games besides the quarterback's arm. It doesn't matter how bad your secondary is. It doesn't matter how bad your linebacker play is. If your D-line can get to the quarterback in a split second, they can't do anything. So we know how important the defensive line is. We know how important the pass rush is specifically. Nebraska hasn't been successful in that in the past. If you don't land, I'm just saying this, if you don't land Valdin Sone, if you don't land Titan Davis, it's going to get ugly quickly with the way it's going. So I'm just looking at Nebraska to try to build this relationship really quick. The fact that we only have 2 players coming on official visits, that's very concerning. I'll just say that. Because it means that nobody else is really interested. I don't know. I'm starting to get a little concerned. Let me know your thoughts. Am I overreacting? I want to know. Am I overreacting? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What are your thoughts? Hey, if you made this far in the video, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe. As always, folks, go big grab, go on my roll, and I'll see you in the next one.